Hello, everyone. Welcome to Storytime with Srta Pikula. I hope that all of you are having a very good Tuesday. And today I did not have problems with technical difficulties, so I got this going live thing down. Yeah, well, I'm glad that you're here, and if you're not here right now, I'm glad that you're seeing this later. I'm gonna give a shout out today. And the shout out that I'm gonna give today is to my student Eli, and paper and screen today, and that was really funny. So shout out to Eli, who always makes me smile, and he's a real champ. So yeah, I hope that all of you are doing well and safe and having a good time. Okay, so we're going to recap a little bit what happened in Prince Caspian last time. So last time we're in chapter 7, which is Old Narnia in Danger, and they had a council, big meeting, on Dancing Lawn, and all of these animals and creatures were there, and they were all having a debate. They were all discussing what they were supposed to do. So some of them were like, well, we couldn't possibly wait for the feast after the meeting, so we must feast beforehand. But then some of them argued, well, no, we decide what we're doing before we eat, so we're going to have the council beforehand. And then there were the squirrels, and they said, well, we can totally eat and talk at the same time, so we're going to do that. And they were so funny. And then eventually they were all, when they heard a noise, and Badger smelled it out and said, a man is coming. It's dangerous. But then they realized, like, nah, it doesn't smell quite like a man. And who came along but Dr. Cornelius. Dr. Cornelius used a little bit of magic to find them. But then Dr. Cornelius told them, he was like, oh man, you guys left your tracks everywhere. So Mirhaz and his army are out looking for you. And so we need to move quickly. We need to, or else we're going to be surrounded by here. So they were trying to decide what to go, where to go, what to do. And Glenn Storm the Centaur and Dr. Cornelius are both very wise. And Dr. Cornelius suggested we need to go to a place of shelter called Aslan's How. And they all agreed that this was a good place to go. So why was Aslan's How a good place to go? Well, Aslan's How was a bunch of caves under a great mound of earth, kind of like a hill. And it was a bunch of caves inside, and there were a bunch of caves within it. So you could get lost really easily until you got to know your way around Aslan's How. And there was a center cave, and inside the center cave was a great stone. And that's why it was really important. You're going to find out later what that stone is and why it's so important. So they're in Aslan's How, and there was also lots of carvings and pictures on the wall, and they seemed to Caspian like even more ancient pictures than the Narnia that he knew, that he had heard of from his nurse, and lots of pictures of the lion. And then they were doing battle against Mirhaz's army, and they would battle, and then they would rest, and then they would battle, and they could hardly catch their breath. And then they came up with this really great plan, but then they completely failed, and they were exhausted afterwards because Wimbleweather didn't go when he was supposed to. The giant didn't go when he was supposed to. So we're gonna find out in this battle. All right. Part of the bears had been hurt. A centaur terribly wounded, and there were few in Caspian's party who had not lost blood. It was a gloomy company that huddled under the dripping trees to eat their scanty supper. The gloomiest of all was Giant Wimbleweather. He knew that it was all his fault. He sat in silence, shedding big tears which collected on the end of his nose and then fell off with a huge splash on the whole company of mice who had just been beginning to get warm and drowsy. The clay lamp lighting up their pale faces and throwing big shadows on the walls. "If your majesty is ever to use the horn," said Truffle Hunter, "I think the time has come now." Caspian had, of course, told them of his treasure several days ago. "We are certainly in great need," answered Caspian, "but it is hard to be sure we are at our greatest. Supposing there came an even worse need, and we had already used it." "By that argument," said Knickerbrick, "your majesty will never use it until it is too late." "I agree with that," said Dr. Cornelius. "And what do you think, Trumpkin?" asked Caspian. "Oh, as for me," said the Red Dwarf, who had been listening with complete indifference, "your majesty knows I think the horn, and that bit of broken stone over there, and your great King Peter, and your lion Aslan, and all eggs and moonshine. It's all one to me when your majesty blows the horn. All I insist on is that the army is told nothing about it. There's no good raising hopes of magical help, which, as I think, are sure to be disappointed. And in the name of Aslan, we will wind Queen Susan's horn," said Caspian. "There is one thing, sire," said Dr. Cornelius, "that should perhaps be done first. We do not know what form of the help will take. It might call Aslan himself from over the sea. But I think it is more likely to call King Peter the High King and his mighty consorts down from the high past. But in either case, I do not think we can be sure that the help will come to this very spot." "You never said a truer word," put in Trumpkin. "I think," went on the learned man, "that they, or he, will come back to one or other of the ancient places in Narnia. This, where we are now sit, is the most ancient and most deeply magical place of all, and here, I think, the answer is likeliest to come. But there are two others. One is Lantern Waste, upriver, west of Beaver's Dam, where the royal children first appeared in Narnia, as the record tells. The other is down at the river mouth, where their castle, Cair Paravel, once stood. And if Aslan himself comes, that would be the best place for me and him too, for every story says that he is the son of the great emperor over the sea, and over the sea he will pass. I should like very much to send messengers to both places, to Lantern Waste and the river mouth, to receive them, or him, or it." "Just as I thought," muttered Trumpkin. "The first result of all this foolery is not to bring us help, but to lose us two fighters." Who would you think of sending, Dr. Cornelius?" asked Caspian. "Squirrels are best for getting through enemy country without being caught," said Truffle Hunter. "All our squirrels, and we haven't many," said Knickerbrick, "are rather flighty. The only one I'd trust with a job like that would be Pattertwig." "Let it be Pattertwig, then," said Caspian. "And who for our other messenger? I know you'd go, Truffle Hunter, but you haven't the speed. Nor you, Dr. Cornelius." "I won't go," said Knickerbrick. "With all these humans and beasts about, there must be a dwarf here to see that the dwarves are fairly treated." "Thimbles and thunderstorms," cried Trumpkin in a rage. "Is that how you speak to the king?" "Send me, sire. I will go." "But I thought you didn't believe in the horn, Trumpkin," said Caspian. "No more do I, your majesty. But what's that got to do with it? I might as well die on a wild goose chase as die here. You are my king. I know the difference between giving advice and taking orders. You've had my advice, and now it's time for the orders." "I will never forget this, Trumpkin," said Caspian. "Send for Pattertwig, one of you, and when shall I blow the horn?" "I would wait for sunrise, your majesty," said Dr. Cornelius. "That sometimes has an effect in operations of white magic." A few minutes later, Pattertwig arrived and had his task explained to him. As he was, like many squirrels, full of courage and dash and energy and excitement and mischief, not to say conceit, he no sooner heard it that he was eager to be off. It was arranged that he should run for Lantern Waste while Trunken made the shorter journey to the river mouth. After a hasty meal, they both set off with the fervent thanks and good wishes of the king, the badger, and Cornelius. Chapter 8. How they left the island. And so, said Trunken, for, as you have realized, it is he who had been telling all this story to the 4 children sitting on the grass in the ruined hall of Cair Paravel. And so I put a crust or 2 in my pocket, left behind all weapons but my dagger, and took to the woods in the gray of the morning. I've been plugging away for many hours when there came a sound that I'd never heard like in my born days. I won't forget that. The whole air was full of it. It's that loud as thunder, but far longer, cool and sweet as music over water, but strong enough to shake the woods. And I said to myself, if that's not the horn, call me a rabbit. And a moment later, I wondered why he hadn't blown it sooner. What time is it? Asked Edmund. Between 9 and 10 of the clock, said Trunken. Just when we were at the railway station, said all the children, and looked at one another with shining eyes. Please go on, said Lucy to the dwarf. Well, I wondered, but I went on as hard as I could pelt. I kept on all night, and when it was half light this morning, as if it had no more sense than a giant, I risked a short cut across the open country to cut off a big loop of the river and was caught. Not by the army, but by a pompous old fool who had the charge of a little castle, which is Miraz's last stronghold towards the coast. I needn't tell you that they got no true tale out of me, but I was a dwarf, and that was enough. But lobsters and lollipops, it is a good thing the Essential was a pompous fool. Anyone else would have run me through then and there, but nothing would do for him short of a grand execution, sending me down to the ghosts in a full ceremonial way. And then this young lady, he nodded at Susan, does her bit of archery, and it was pretty good shooting, if you tell me, and here we are. And without my armor, for of course they took that, he knocked out and refilled his pipe. Great Scott, said Peter. So it was the horn, your own horn, Sue, that dragged all of us off that seat on the platform yesterday morning. I can hardly believe it, yet it all fits in. I don't know why you shouldn't believe it, said Lucy. If you believe in magic at all, aren't there lots of stories about magic forcing people out of one place, out of one world, into another? I mean, when a magician in the Arabian Nights calls up a jinn, it has to come. We had to come just like that. Yes, said Peter. I suppose what makes it feel so strange is that in the stories, it's always someone in our world who does the calling. One doesn't really think about where the jinn's coming from. And now we know what it feels like for the jinn, said Edmund with a chuckle. Golly, it is a bit uncomfortable to know that we can be whistled for like that. It's worse than what Father says about living at the mercy of the telephone. And that's where we're going to stop. We're going to stop right there for today. And next time we'll find out how they got off the island. And thanks for watching. And I hope that all of you have a great rest of your Tuesday. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.